Hey, what's up guys? The Moto G6 is the middle sibling of this year's G6 family, both feature-wise and price-wise. As a budget phone, what does it bring to the table, and is it worth looking into? I'm Will for GSM Arena, and this is our Moto G6 review. The Moto G6 has a snazzy appearance. The Gorilla Glass back panel and the aluminum frame all have a glossy sheen. The design of the back is typical Motorola. A round camera bump houses the dual cameras in the LED flash, forming a little face. The glass actually curves in toward the frame. They meet at a ridge, which helps a bit with gripping this otherwise slippery phone. Ours came with a clear rubber case included too, if you prefer something even grippier. Taking up most of the front is the tall 5.7-inch display. It's an IPS LCD with a 1080p resolution. At 424 ppi, content looks sharp, and blacks are pretty deep for an LCD. The screen has decent max brightness, at 460 nits and even up to 560 in auto mode in bright conditions. Sunlight legibility is good, but not as good as the G6 Plus. There's also something called Moto Display, which shows you time and notifications when a new one comes in, or if the phone detects your hand. This takes the place of a notification LED. Below the display is the front-mounted fingerprint reader. It's always on and accurate, but the waking up animation is kind of slow. You can opt to use the fingerprint reader for navigation instead of on-screen keys. Swipe right to switch between recent apps, swipe left to go back, and tap to go home. Pressing and holding the sensor for a short time will lock the screen, while a longer press will summon the Google Assistant. The Moto G6's earpiece also doubles as a front-facing loudspeaker. Loudness is excellent. Along with the G6 Plus, this is one of the loudest phones we've tested so far. Plus, the sound is rich with headphones to the 3.5mm jack next to the USB-C port. Audio through headphones is solid, though loudness is only average, and stereo separation tested out a bit lower than the competition. With headphones plugged in, you also get an onboard FM radio as well as a Dolby audio equalizer. The Moto G6's card slot has room for 2 independent SIMs as well as a micro SD for expandable storage, on top of the 32 or 64 gigs that come built in. Overall, the G6's build is pretty solid, and while the phone isn't IP rated, Moto does stand by its splash resistance. The electronics inside are covered by a water-repellent coating. At the heart of the Moto G6 is a Snapdragon 450 chipset, with either 3 or 4 gigs of RAM. It does fine. It can handle tasks and gaming pretty smoothly, and it stays cool without excess heating. But in graphics benchmarks, it scores lower than competition that are running Snapdragon 600 series chipsets. The Moto G6 has a 3000 mAh battery, but unfortunately, battery life is less than stellar. It earned a below-average endurance rating of 64 hours in our proprietary tests, mainly due to a relatively high power draw during standby. You can charge this battery up decently fast though, with the included 15-watt turbocharger. We got from 0 to 43% battery in 30 minutes, and a full recharge took 80 minutes. Though it isn't an Android One phone, the Moto G6's OS is basically stock Android 8.0 Oreo. There are just a few added features provided by Moto, which include the custom gestures, the fingerprint reader navigation, and the camera app. Everything else is provided through Google's apps and services, like the handy face unlock feature included with Android. The Moto G6's main camera is 12 megapixels with a bright f1.8 lens. There's no OIS, and there is regular autofocus, not dual pixel like on the G6 Plus. The secondary 5 megapixel cam is only there to provide depth info for portrait mode. Daylight images from the Moto G6 turn out nice, with a decent amount of resolved detail, great contrast, little noise, and accurate and lively colors. We've seen wider dynamic range though. Auto HDR is normally on by default. Switch this off and dynamic range takes a plunge, though you do get a little more sharpness. This applies for night shots too. The Moto G6 takes some good shots after dark, helped by the bright f1.8 lens. Pictures have low noise, good contrast, and enjoyable colors. The resolve detail isn't great, but it's not bad either. The depth sensor comes into play in portrait mode. The defocusing of the background can be adjusted, and looks quite convincing. Subject separation is pretty good, though it sometimes has problems with the edges around hair. The 8 megapixel selfie cam is f2.2 with fixed focus. It has an LED flash too, for taking shots in the dark. Selfies have decent detail and look crisp, with pleasing skin tones. Video capture is limited to 1080p on the Moto G6. There's no 4K like on the G6 Plus. At 30 FPS, there's electronic stabilization which works quite well. There's great contrast, low noise and lively colors, and a decent amount of detail. Dynamic range is a bit narrow though. So the Moto G6. For around $250 you get a nice looking build, quick charging, stock Android, and a camera that performs pretty well. Most phones in this price point come with shortcomings though, and the Moto G6 is no exception. Here it's the below average battery life. If you can live with that, then the G6 is a solid mid-range phone at a pretty good price. Thanks for watching. Hit like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And you're always welcome to stop by gsmarina.com for our full test findings. See ya!